Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area and the Randolph PTO Council, I'm pleased to welcome you to our virtual candidates forum for the Randolph Township Board of Education. My name is Donna Gariglia. I am the president of the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Empowering voters, defending democracy is our message. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League. We are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. We envision a democracy where everyone has the right, the knowledge, the confidence, and the opportunity to participate. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or footage from this debate in campaign materials or advertising of any kind, including internet, social media, cable, or television, is not authorized by the League of Women Voters. Membership in the League is open to people 16 years and older of all gender identities. With 100 years of experience, the League is one of America's oldest and most trusted civic nonprofit organizations. Partnering with the League in presenting this forum, we welcome the Randolph PTO Council and thank Jen Ganji for working with us. We are grateful for the nonpartisan participation and support and look forward to our continuing work together. I'd now like to introduce Jen.
Thank you, Donna. Good evening. And thank you to our candidates, the Morristown League of Women Voters, and our community members, those who are watching us live this evening and those who will be tuning in and watching before Election Day. The Randolph PTO Council appreciates the opportunity to co-host this year's candidate forum, as we have done over the past few years. The Council's mission has always been to promote excellence within our schools by supporting faculty, administration, and parents. We work together with all 6 Randolph Township schools to maximize communication between all vested parties. We hope the community at large sees what a valuable resource our PTOs are in each of our schools. Not only do we work with our faculty and administration, but we also work with all of our community members. We hope that you will take the time to join one of our PTOs or call one of your school officers and ask them about what's available for you to do. We love our volunteers. Thank you all very much and have a nice night.
Thanks, Jen. We encourage everyone to go to vote411.org, a one-stop site for information on all aspects of voting in New Jersey, with information about all candidates up and down the ballot. And please visit our website at lwvmorrisarea.org, as well as the New Jersey State website at lwvnj.org, which addresses the latest in all voting concerns. All forums conducted by the New Jersey Leagues can be viewed on the New Jersey website, lwvnj.org, and vote411.org. We want to remind voters that there are 3 ways they can vote in the upcoming general election. First, vote by mail ballot. Registered voters can apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found at vote.nj.gov or contacting your county clerk. Remember, vote by mail ballots cannot be returned to any early voting location or at any polling place for this election. Second, in-person early voting. This new option enables all registered voters to cast their ballot in person using a voting machine during a 9-day period prior to Election Day. You can now choose to vote in person when it's most convenient for your schedule. In-person early voting locations will be open Saturday, October 23rd through Sunday, October 31st. Hours will be Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You don't need an appointment. The third way is at your polling place on Election Day. Vote in person at your polling place from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 2nd. Go to vote.nj.gov for voter registration information, early voting locations, polling place locations, and more. This forum is being live streamed on the Morristown area YouTube channel, and it will be available there for viewing afterwards. Future forums include tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., October 26th, the Morris County Commissioners. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Nancy Hedinger. Nancy is a league-trained monitor who is not from this voting district. She has the questions submitted by the community, and over 100 questions were submitted. She will now introduce the candidates and outline the format for this evening. Nancy, you're on mute.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I unmuted. So welcome everyone. To move things along, your candidates for this evening are Thomas Duffy, Michael Giordano, Peggy Kurtz, Michael Loscasio, Allison Manfred, and Yang Wang. They will be answering questions that were submitted by the community. We received, as Donna said, almost 100 questions. So you won't get all of your questions asked and answered, but we do appreciate your tuning in for the ones that you will hear about. Each candidate will be given an opportunity to answer the same question and an opportunity to have a rebuttal. The questions will take their answers. They'll be given a minute to answer the question, and the rebuttals will be 30 seconds. We will do opening statements in alphabetical order to open up the debate or the forum. And then at the end, we will have closing statements from each candidate in reverse alphabetical order. So without further ado, I'd like to move things right along since we have so much to accomplish tonight, and we'll do our opening statements. Mr. Duffy, you're first.
Hi, my name is Tom Duffy. My wife and I have been Randolph residents for 38 years. We have 3 grown children who went 12 years through Randolph schools. I have a master's degree in engineering and an MBA, and I have many years of corporate leadership experience in policy-making roles, overseeing large organizations and budgets. I am running for the Board of Education because the current board has lost focus on the most important priorities: educational excellence in core subjects, financial responsibility, and a school environment that fosters learning and respect. Under the tenure of the current board, Randolph test score rankings declined significantly relative to other Morris County districts, with proficiency levels in math and language arts in the bottom third of Morris County districts. In the same period, per student costs have increased significantly. This can be verified by reviewing New Jersey DOE data as I did. But the board is not paying attention to either educational results or financial management. Instead, they are focused on divisive issues like taking Columbus Day off the school calendar and a DEI report that recommends sensitivity training for Randolph parents. And there is no sign of independent thinking on the board. Every vote is 9-0 with no debate. At the same time, the board has zero focus on radical state curriculum mandates that are clearly intended to create division and distractions for students and to undermine the rights of parents to handle these sensitive topics with their own children according to their own values and beliefs. The board should be getting input from parents and working transparently to ensure that parents have access to curriculum content and that impact to students is avoided or minimized. These top priorities will be my focus as a member of the board.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano. You're on mute.
Thank you for that. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. And thank you to everyone in the audience for tuning in tonight and watching from home. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope you are too. I'm running for the board really to add my voice and my perspective to the board. I think a good board is a representation of the community it is responsible for, and that it should be composed of a variety of different voices and perspectives. I truly believe that we are blessed to live in a wonderful town with excellent schools, and it's my goal to make sure that they stay that way. As a parent with both older and younger children, I have a very unique perspective to contribute, I think. And I've seen what we do well, and I've seen where we can do better still. I believe it's critical that people elected to our board are people who want to serve for the right reasons and fully understand the role of the BOE. I've spent an extensive amount of time learning about this role and about our schools. And I really look forward to sharing that perspective with you tonight and those experiences, as well as my vision for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz.
Thank you for having us here tonight. As you know, I'm Peggy Kurtz, and I'm running for school board. I have been in education my entire life. It is my passion. I have been a teacher trainer. I've worked for the superintendent of the Borough of Queens. I've been a department head, an assistant principal, and an adjunct at CCM. I have literally devoted my entire life to education. Last winter, when I was helping my 2 grandchildren who attend Randolph schools on their virtual days, I saw their classrooms close up. I was there every day, so I saw a lot of them. I really got a feeling for what was happening in the classrooms. I saw teachers struggling with curriculum and technology. Some were more successful than others. I also saw the curriculum was not as robust as it could have been. And I saw some basic principles like love of country were not emphasized where they could have been. And I saw a brand new teacher. Who was making the same mistakes over and over and not getting any help. And I wondered why. I believe our present board has allowed itself to be distracted from their primary purpose, which is education. I know that I can work cooperatively with the present board to work more effectively, to communicate better with parents, and to serve our students better. I'm running for the board because I can't just stand by and let my grandchildren and all the students of Randolph get less than the education that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Locascio.
Great. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak and take questions today. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Locascio. A bit of my background, I was born and raised in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. I went to Stevens Institute of Technology, where I earned degrees in applied physics and electrical engineering. My entire career has been basically directly or indirectly related to science and technology in some way. Worked at Lockheed Martin in nuclear Navy capacity. I founded a nanotechnology company where I was CTO, senior analyst at a consulting firm that focused on emerging technology areas. And for the last number of years, I worked at BASF in a business development and strategy role. So basically a lot of technology, but I have to say that my interest is actually far beyond science and technology. It includes history, art, economics, kind of you name it. I have 3 children. My son Alex is a freshman, daughter Juliana is 7th grade, and a beautiful 3-year-old who's not quite yet in there. And like many of you, my family and I moved to Randolph, largely because of, 30 seconds, the great reputation of the schools. But I found that it was actually less rigorous than what I found in Cedar Grove many decades ago, far less prestigious town. Through COVID, I noticed that it became far worse. And then my frustration mounted even further on the 9-0 decision around Columbus Day, which I thought was rather appalling. So I dug further. I found that the once leading ranking schools were in decline, the finances were out of control, and the Board of Ed dismissed parents' concerns. So I'm running today to reverse a lot of those issues. I think we need new leadership in the Board of Ed. Thank you.
Ms. Manfred.
My name is Allison Manfred. My statements and answers tonight are made in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a board member. They're also not representative of the board or its current members and solely are my own. I've served on the Board of Education since January 2019. I currently am the co-vice president of the board. During my term, I've served as the co-vice president and vice president, and I currently chair the education committee. I've been a member of several board committees, and I've also served as liaison to local organizations. I've also mentored 2 new board members. And an issue that's important to me is that the district must be aware of and be on top of any shortcomings to our children's learning as a result of COVID-19. By listening to staff, teachers, parents, and students, the district can aim to support the families as we come out of this pandemic and continue to reinforce the solid structure of Randolph students. By utilizing brief testing such as Start Strong, teachers are already quickly provided with the data needed to address students' needs, including any learning discrepancies. The primary purpose of a board member is student achievement in a safe, caring, respectful climate. All students should feel comfortable and accepted in schools. Randolph's strong social and emotional learning programs and curriculum teaches many valuable skills, such as achieving personal goals and creating and maintaining supportive relationships. As a Board of Education candidate and as a parent of 2 middle schoolers, this is extremely important to me. I have a strong admiration for this district, and I understand the mission of Randolph schools. I continue to have the time, energy, and desire to serve the community. For these reasons, I feel I am a strong Board of Education candidate, and I hope to be reelected for another term. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, perfect timing. Mr. Wong.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Yung Wang, and I'm running for the Board of Education position again this year. I want to say thank you to the people who voted for me last year. I also want to say thank you to the people who voted for another candidate because she is my wife. 7 years in Randolph, we have 2 kids, Raymond and Kevin, in the school district. My background is chemical engineering. I have worked for pharmaceutical company as a process engineer and as a maintenance manager for past 20 years plus. I love Randolph. I'm moved by many Randolph parents who volunteer for the kids and for the community. I deeply love them. So I try to do it, devote my time to Randolph. So after I elected last year, I have been working with other board members and with the school administrators and with staffs. I respect other people and communicate with them, even if we have different opinions. I'm constructive. I will continue working for the school district for the best run of the tax dollar, well run for the tax dollar, well spending of the tax dollar. I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so we've heard all the opening statements. It's time to go to the questions, and they will be in a random order. We will start with the first question is, do you recommend the district follow the recommendations of the September 2021 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee report? And that some of the recommendations included, among other things, supporting staff members in diversity and inclusion best practices and establishing a working group to ensure staffing reflects the diversity of the student body. If so, what steps should be taken to implement the recommendations? If not, why not? And the first person to answer will be Thomas Duffy. Make sure you unmute.
The DEI report was very poorly done and should never have been approved by the board. Even though the report took 16 months to produce, the actual input was from only 32 Randolph residents, a tiny fraction of residents, which provides no statistical basis for any recommendations. That alone should have been enough for the board to reject the report, even if the recommendations were minor. But the recommendations were not minor. They were sweeping and structural, intruding on the well-established responsibilities of the board and administration, and even recommending sensitivity training for Randolph parents based on only input from several participants. The board should rescind its approval of the report and discontinue the superintendent's review of the recommendations.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano.
Yes, I mean, I fully support the DEI report and its recommendations. I think a lot of people underestimate the challenges and the difficulties that come with reporting racism and discrimination in the community. And I applaud the members of the community who had the courage and the conviction to stand up and share their experiences. There's a lot of misinformation about this topic. Sensitivity training is in fact already required to be offered to parents in the community under existing state law, and I do support that. If I were going to talk about what we can do to implement those recommendations, I think there are three key areas we have to look at. We have to look at the hiring practices of the district to ensure they reflect the diversity of our community, the culture of the athletic and extracurricular programs, and as well as a complete audit of the curriculum to ensure that it aligns to the current state guidelines and standards and legislation around diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz?
I think that the DEI report was well intended, but I do not think that it makes any kind of sense to base a report on such a small sampling of people. Racism is just too important a topic, and it's too big of a topic to base on such a small sampling. I would like to see another investigation. I would like to see a larger sampling, and I would love to be able to throw my support behind something that fought racism if it were well designed. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Locascio.
Hi, thanks so much. No, I actually dislike the DEI report greatly, largely because the methodology was quite poor. It's already been described earlier, only 32 respondents, and that data was not actually shared, so a lack of transparency. I actually thought the construction of the report was incredibly poor, along with questions around whether all dogs are mammals and things of that nature. It's quite clear that the 9-0 rubber stamping didn't bother to read that report. Moreover, on the legal side of things, no, I read the law. The law does not require, first of all, that law was not mentioned at all in this report. It'd be quite easy to do so. And it doesn't say that any long-term parental teaching that's special at all is required. It merely says that parents should have access to what else other people are taught, period. That's all it says. So it's fundamentally incorrect to say that that's part of the law altogether. And Tom's, how he viewed that is absolutely 100% correct. So I stand by, I do not like the report at all. I think it should be rescinded altogether, to be quite honest. And,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Manfred. Allison.
I do think that in the DEI committee's report, there were strong recommendations. These included reviewing the school's codes of conduct. I think that is important to do. I think it's important to make sure that they're relevant, they're fair, and they're up to date. Another one of the recommendations was to make sure that there's barrier-free access for individuals with disabilities. Again, this wasn't only focused on discrimination with racism, but other sources of discrimination and people with disabilities as well. So I do think there were very strong recommendations in that. I don't know if there really should be a DEI committee that is strictly connected to the board. However, I think that we should have and I think it's a good idea for the district to have a committee that's similar to it, but that it would be going to the district. It wouldn't be board business anymore. And it's possible too that we could see the committees that are already available in the district and see if they could kind of implement some of this into this. I do always think it's good to listen to the voices of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Wong.
Hi, I have same opinion as Mrs. Manfred. Although the report has something like a disadvantage, but this is the start point, and we need to work on this point, and we need to continue work on this this area, and to benefit all the kids and for the community. We do have a problem.
Thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the second question. It says, some candidates have chosen to align with political parties for this election, while some have remained independent. Why did you make the decision you did to be partisan or not, or nonpartisan? And how can voters be assured that their views will be considered even if they're not part of the political party you align with? And we're going to start with Mr. Giordano on this one.
Sure. I think it's critical that the Board of Education races remain nonpartisan. That being said, 2/3 of Randolph voters are aligned to one political party or another. And it's important to get out in the community and take that feedback and talk to people, whether or not they already agree with you. I've been out in the community now for several months, talking to people of all different political persuasions. I've been invited to several events to which I'm happy to go and speak to people about my views for the schools. I don't believe that we need to get partisan about anything, and I think the independence and integrity of the school board as defined under the School Ethics Act is extremely important. I do think it's very problematic when there are candidates who are already predetermined on how they're going to vote on particular issues and what actions they're already going to take prior to being elected, as a board can only act as a board without any individual actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Ms. Kurtz. Don't forget to unmute.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Sorry. Some candidates have chosen to align with political parties for this election, while others have remained independent. Why did you make the decision you did to be partisan or nonpartisan? And how can voters be assured that their views will be considered even if they're not part of the political party that you align with?
Thank you. I believe it's very important to remain independent and not align yourself with one party or another. As part of who I am, I've always lived my life voting for a person rather than for a party. I think that truthfully, this is the only way to go, is to keep politics out of school and out of the school board. It's simply not something that we would want. I made the decision because it's who I am and what I am, and this is the way I've always lived my life. I've always tried to do good. I've always tried to do right, and I will continue doing so no matter what party proposes something. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Locascio.
Oh, hi, I'm already unmuted. Yeah, I think that it's quite important to keep politics out of the schools. And one of my major issues, frankly, is the intrusion of politics that I've seen going into the schools, including the Columbus Day and holiday issue, which was, in my view, completely political of nature. So I do think that the student body is best served by an apolitical board. In our own campaign so far, I could assure you that we're meeting with all people. We have many, many people that are both Republicans as well as Democrats, and many independents supporting our effort and our various planks. So thank you.
Thank you. Allison Manfred, Ms. Manfred.
I am running independently. I have been running since the beginning, just as myself. I'm not part of a slate or any unofficial slate. Right from the beginning, 3 years ago when I ran for the board, I was told the board is nonpartisan. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. And I remember 3 years ago, I did have some people say, well, which side are you on? And I said, the board is nonpartisan. So that's the way it's always been, and that's the way I treat it. I don't have any political affiliation at all. I listen to everyone, and I'm always eager to hear what everyone thinks. Again, I'm not aligning with a political party. I did not 3 years ago when I ran, and I still don't now. And it is important to listen to everyone, and as well to have everyone reach out to the school when they need to about any information they need or any more details they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong.
Okay, yeah, I strongly agree with the board should not be party related. There should not be any political fight in the board. I talked to some leaders in both parties, and they all agree with me. And also I checked on internet, I checked everywhere. All the documentation says the board should not be party related. So that's what I stand for. Then that's what I I will go by and I will talk to people and listen to people's ideas, and I will keep a non-partisan position.
Thank you. And finally, we have Thomas Duffy.
Hi, thank you. The board should absolutely not be partisan. All of the issues that I believe are important and that our slate and campaign agenda have been focused on, I believe strongly are important to all parents, not just to a subset of parents based on a political party. That is what I strongly believe. And all of the ideas and all of the campaign positions that we have communicated consistently are based on my own personal beliefs. And as I said, have nothing to do with political party. They have to do with what I believe are issues that all parents care about. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our third question. What is your position with regard to the recent controversy over the school calendar? How, if at all, would you have done the Columbus Day calendar change differently? That one we start with Ms. Kurtz.
So I was at this school board meeting where everyone was talking about the calendar. I have to say that I thought it was a very poor decision. It showed a lack of being in touch with the community. I didn't understand personally why the school board wanted to change the way that the holidays were being demarked on the calendar. I thought that the board was correct in rescinding its changing of the calendar. And truthfully, I just think that it should never have been done in the first place. I feel that it was a poor decision, but I was happy that the board did listen to the big outcry in the community and reverse the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, well, I thought that decision was appalling, to be quite honest with you, and I was surprised that it went 9-0. I thought the decision to try to rectify that, to remove all the holidays, was probably even worse, also 9-0. And apparently the board eventually thought it was also a terrible idea, given that they rescinded it. So I really, for the life of me, can't figure out why during the course of COVID, when our kids were out of school, never in school full-time, despite surrounding towns were, that this was an issue at all. There was most certainly not a clamoring for this. It just came out of a single DEI commission out of nowhere, and was just a terrible decision altogether. It had no basis, no rationale for it whatsoever, and it was terrible. So I would have never had even brought it up to vote if it was up to me, and I most certainly would have voted against it from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Manfred.
I was part of the decision. A decision was made, and it was a decision that many in the community were unhappy with. People were offended, and that was absolutely never my intent. I never meant to act in a way that was malice or hurtful to people or a group of people. I listened to the feedback and the comments that the board received, and instead of being unbending, I chose to vote to reverse the decision and reinstate the school calendar. Since my time on the board, we have never had an issue this controversial, and it made me realize the bigger impact we have on the community. I believe the question also was what could have been done differently. We could have definitely tabled the motion, and that is an option for board members. If there is an issue that we are not clear on or need more thought, we can table it. And that is something that speaking for myself, I could have and should have done in this situation. The district did put out a survey on Friday that is looking for feedback from the community. So we do listen to the community, and in instances like this, we do want to see what holidays are important to the community. And this is a good example of the board listening to the community and asking for their feedback.
Thank you. Mr. Wong.
Yeah, I'm sorry for voted for it for that decision, change Columbus days. I didn't know the background of this. So some people feel very hurt, we read emails and also other people's reflection for this change. So I listened to the people. So I voted rescind it so take it off. However, please be aware, this idea, Columbus Day idea, take a very small corner of the Board of Education, very small. We didn't, before the decision, we didn't even think about, talk about it. We need a calendar anyway. So then it comes, it shows up like only a few seconds, and you have to make a decision in a few seconds. And the majority of our energy, our time wasn't spent on the calendar. We try to be out of that situation. So, but finally it's out.
Thank you so much. Okay, I guess we're going to go to question 4. Do we have a rebuttal?
I didn't answer that one.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes. Well, first, actually, it's Mr. Duffy's turn.
Yes, thank you. I have the same questions about why the board would ever have spent any energy at all on a question about the school calendar with COVID and all of the other issues that we're facing. In my mind, there must have been a deeper reason, right? And so I think everyone is well aware that there is a false and destructive idea that's being pushed not only in New Jersey, but across the country, that America is an oppressive and racist culture. And one part of the solution that they see is to erase our heritage. There's no doubt in my mind that that was the reason why it was even considered, with all of the other issues that the board should have been focused on. There was a deeper reason, because that reason has a lot of energy now. So I think it wasn't just about Columbus. I think it was about attacking our heritage, and it was step 1. So I think it was a bad idea even to consider a calendar update. I don't think that's what the board should be focused on. I would never have considered raising the question or voting for it.
Thank you.
And I think it is an indication of a deeper issue.
I'm sorry, Mr. Giordano.
Yeah, respectfully, I disagree with Mr. Duffy on that. I really don't think the answer is that complicated to find out. People make mistakes. Board members are volunteers at the end of the day, and mistakes are sometimes going to be a thing that happens. Just like in the professional world or with our own kids, when we make mistakes, the important thing is, what do we learn from them? How do we move forward? Now, if I had been on the board at that time, yes, I agree with Ms. Manfred. I would have immediately tried to table that motion so we could discuss it. But ultimately, the decision that was poor was reversed, and the district is engaging with the community to conduct a survey. And I think ultimately diversity isn't a code word for anything. I mean, diversity is an additive term. We can add to our diversity without taking things away from it, and we can show everyone's perspective, good, bad, and indifferent. Everyone has a voice at the table, and I agree with sentiments that strive to get feedback to make that a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttal, Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, well, I just have a comment, really. So Yang Wang mentioned that he just didn't think and didn't know the issue. And I find that to be quite common with this board. And yet they vote 9-0. And I find that quite disturbing. And I think one of the reasons why we need, frankly, a change of leadership. In this specific instance, this wasn't just a removal of Columbus Day. It was a replacement of Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, the sole intent to demonstrate that the discovery of America was inherently oppressive. And I find that appalling. Thank you.
Mr. Duffy?
Yeah, the other thing I want to say is, if it was a simple mistake, then when the board was addressing it a second time, it would have been reinstated. Instead, the board felt it was so distasteful of an idea to restore Columbus Day to the calendar that they voted to remove all holidays from the calendar. That is not the sign of a mistake having been made. That is the sign of an agenda that someone doesn't want to move away from. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? Yes, Ms. Manfred.
I can only speak for myself, but I do say that I do not have any type of agenda with this or any other things on the board. Again, it's hard. It is hard when you're in the position and you are hoping to do the right thing. I kept on trying to listen to everyone and trying to make everyone happy. And it was just it was a very hard situation. So again, I wish it was a situation, I wish we didn't even have to spend our time going over a question like this. It happened. It's unfortunate. And as I said before, I apologize for my role in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're still spending time on calendars.
Ms. Kurtz, please don't interrupt.
The only thing that I can say is, why was this ever a focus? There are so many more important things that the board could have and should have been talking about, and this should not have been one of them. It never should have even come up to waste the board members and the community's time.
Mr. Janet, you had a rebuttal already, did you not?
I did not, but since everyone else is going.
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. You did not.
No, it's okay. You know, I just think it speaks to a broader issue in our society. There's a tendency these days to politicize everything. If we disagree with something, it's an agenda. And I just don't think that's the case. You know, people do make mistakes. Sometimes they make more than one mistake. What ultimately matters is, did we learn something from it? Did we grow? And did we correct the mistake? Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like a rebuttal on this? Okay, then we will move on to the next question. How should the board and its members respond to questions posed by members of the community? This is about communication. How should they respond to concerns or questions from the community? So the first one on this question would be Michael Ocasio.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think they should listen to the community first and foremost, and take time to deliberate, particularly when there's an important issue at hand. I do think that having surveys is actually quite a good idea to get a better handle of what's going on within the town. And I also think that, you know, just continuing to do effectively your primary research, reaching out to parents, reaching out to colleagues, teachers, and others is important, just to provide the perfect or a good framework by which to make decisions.
Thank you. Allison Manfred, please. Same
Thank
question.
you. Sure, thank you. I think communication is extremely important. I have encouraged, while I was a board member and during my campaign, for community members to always reach out to the board with any questions that they have. I understand that sometimes you can ask people, your neighbors, your friends, for answers or maybe more clarification, but really going directly to the source, your child's teacher or your child's principal, or even Jen Fano, the superintendent, that's really a way to get the answers you want. I always encourage to community members to come to board meetings where they can speak directly to the superintendent and the board. At the end of public comment, we are able to answer the questions. And if we don't have an answer, there's always someone who gets back to those people in the public. Also emails, please always send emails, not only to the superintendent, but to board members, so we know the issues in the community and we can hopefully be on top of it. So I always encourage communication, either board members, phone calls, or emails. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong.
Yeah, I agree with Allison. We have many ways to communicate. Number one way is, I think the best of the way is the emails. If people can send emails to the board, also can attend the board meeting and make speech, then we can listen. Also, it's a good idea to talk to each other, but we have so big a school district. We have about 17,000 voters. So if one board member talk to talk to other people for 10 minutes, it will take a whole year to every day take 8 hours. So it's only, you can only talk a very small amount. So representation is very important. So I really hope the board member came from everywhere of the society, not just from one small group of represent only a small group. That's not representation. If every 1/3 of the board member came from the same group, then you don't have representation here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong.
Thank you.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes, thank you. I don't think there's an issue with members of the community being able to ask questions. Certainly email and speaking directly at the board are channels that are available to everybody, probably the most important ones. I would agree that surveys that are well constructed and focused on issues of importance to the schools are another mechanism that could be used to get some good input to the Board of Education. My concern is more about what the board does with that input. And I can speak mainly from what I've observed at the board meetings, but it seems to me that the restrictions on dialogue in the board are arbitrary. There should be more of a back and forth conversation. I believe that is done in other towns and is considered to be very constructive. In addition, for the most part, the responses I've heard from the board members in the meetings are more explaining why what's being done is being done, as opposed to actually responding to a question in a way that indicates that it's being listened to. So those are the things that I would focus on improving the communications.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano.
Sure. I mean, as anybody who's been following me knows, I have made transparency and communication pillars of my effort and my campaign. I am happy to always take people's questions. I expect to continue that as a board member. I have a tradition and a value of responding to all questions from anybody, agree or disagree, within 24 hours, and I hope to continue that. What can we do as a board better? I think there are lots of things we can do. One of the big things I have been learning about and become a fan of is strategic planning, where we bring the whole community together and we form groups and we break out into sessions and we discuss our strengths, our ideas, our challenges, and we formulate a real goal for the district, a multi-year plan that reflects everybody's input. And I think that's a great idea and it's something we should look into.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz?
The last board meeting that I was at, there was actually a lot of talk on the part of the board as how best to reach parents. And I commented at that meeting that I was glad to see the board finally, in my opinion, addressing that. I know how difficult it is to reach out, but nevertheless, it has to be done. And I also feel that it's very important to get as large a sampling as possible. This town, as everyone knows, is pretty divided. There are a lot of people on one side of an issue and a lot of people on the other side of an issue. I think it's important to get input from both sides. And I also think that it's very important what you do with that input. Again, the board meetings that I have been at, the most common answer to questions that I heard was, we'll take that under consideration. And unless the people who asked those questions actually got emails back from the board saying they had taken under consideration and made a decision, then I feel that is kind of a condescending answer and not one that facilitates communication.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the next. Did I miss you again? Rebuttal.
No, you didn't.
Did I
Yes.
miss you again?
No, you didn't miss me. Strategic planning, I actually find it quite interesting. And I've actually spent the last 10 years of my life in the world's largest chemical company doing strategic planning, and would be happy to lend my skills to that. With respect to communications, one thing to consider, and this is just one example, but on the curriculum, by way of example, I think it's rather poor how it's done today. The curriculum comes out without prior notice. It's discussed for all of a few minutes, and any sort of public debate on the topic is all but useless. So I think there's actually quite a bit that could be done to improve how the public is engaged, and I would plan on doing that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? Okay. That brings us to the next question. In order for boards of education to exceed the municipal property tax levy cap of 2%, they must hold a public referendum. What would it take for you as a board member to vote to exceed the 2% cap? And this question goes first to Mr. Wong.
As a board member, I should be very careful about the spending of the school district, because the school district is the largest portion of our tax dollar. However, so in the inflation goes up like 5% now, more than 5%, and you see meat, everything priced actually maybe like 1/3 of increase, somewhere like doubled. So there is a living cost for everyone in the school district, like all the teachers, all the officers. So we should also consider we want to keep those teacher and school officers' life, like a living life, no change. So if necessary, we may have to go over, but historically we did very well. In the past several years, we only did 1.5%. We have a good record of keeping our tax dollars.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, to be honest, given the situation, I don't know that there's anything other than a dire emergency of some kind. I can't think of an example. And the reason I'm saying that is that I think, as everyone knows, the enrollment in our schools has declined significantly. It's down about 430 kids in the last 3 or 4 years, but it's down almost 1,000, if not more, from prior years before that. So despite that decline, the cost per student has been rising rapidly in the last 4 years. It's up an average of 5% a year, just under 5%, which is 2.5 times the rate of inflation. So I have to think that any needs that we have, we should be able to cover by better analyzing the current spending, finding out what we need to do to keep the per student costs from rising, given that the enrollment is dropping. There should be opportunities without cutting into the essentials of teachers and curriculum and materials, right? So again, given those factors, I think the focus needs to be on getting costs under control and not increasing them above the 2% limit.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano.
Sure, thank you. Budgets are really complicated, and I think it's really important for board members to understand how the budget actually works. Our biggest expense, 80% of our budget, goes to salaries and benefits for our staff, who are our most important asset. But those costs, as we all know, are going to go up. Your health insurance costs go up every year. 80% of the budget is going to increase by more than 2% every year. And if we want to attract and retain top talent, that's a fact. So what do we do about that? First of all, it's important to understand how this actually works. Second of all, we need to recognize that our schools are the root of our community. And the most important function we have as a community is educating the next generation. I don't believe the school board is a malignancy on our town that's going to starve us and choke us. I think it empowers us. And I think we can balance being fiscally responsible with investing in our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz. You're muted, I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is one of those questions that I would have to say, I would want more information on before I could say, yes, I would go over it, or no, I wouldn't. I'd really like to take a deep dive into the budget, see which of those costs are fixed and see which of them can be dealt with. I mean, I know, yes, salaries, yes, insurance, yes, school busing, these are fixed things that we need to take care of. But I'd really like to see where the money is going to, very specifically, before I would ever agree to raise taxes.
Thank you. Ms. Manfred.
I do believe that the state allows a district to increase taxes greater than approximately 2% without a vote if the cost of the benefits is approximately 2%, or if the referendum would vote, if it was put to a referendum and it was voted yes by the community. As mentioned before, 80% of the budget is for the teachers' salaries and benefits. And that ensures that we have top professional teachers and leaders here in Randolph. I think that's important for our kids, and that's important for the district. I also do think the business administrator and admins are proactively managing funds that are cut with minimal disruption to the education of the students. And our board does have a 5-year plan that keeps us fiscally responsible, and this oversees the facilities and school properties as well. The 5-year plan also does allow for a 2% surplus in case of emergencies, which might be in this particular situation with a tax levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, could you just repeat that question quickly?
Yes.
You cut out with the internet, sorry.
Okay, no problem. I have to find it. Okay, in order for boards of education to exceed the municipal property tax levy cap of 2%, they must hold a public referendum. What would it take for you as a board member to vote to exceed the 2% cap?
Yeah, I don't believe we need to, actually. As Tom mentioned, our student population has declined 9% while taxes have continued to rise. So the actual dollar per student has risen rather precipitously. What I would actually take a look at, and by the way, I don't think budgets are that complex to look at all. There are costs that are rising far faster than other costs. So I know everyone's mentioned the 80% that goes to the teachers and their benefits, but there's also a lot of money that goes to non-teaching costs that are increasing roughly 6% a year, including on the administration. So I do think that we can take a look at in detail through the budget and see where, if necessary, costs can be reduced and reapplied towards the students. And that includes frankly, some waste that's in there, including on some travel, on the travel side of the ledger. So quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any rebuttal? Yes, Mr. Giordano. You're muted, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I'd just like to quickly say, I've already looked at these budgets, not just last year's. I've looked at the last 5 years of budget. I found a couple things interesting. Number one, we often spend actual less per year than we budget. Number two, we currently rank 365th in the state for administration in terms of per pupil spending. So I think we do a pretty good job on fiscal responsibility. And again, I think we need to balance the need to invest in the future with the fiscal responsibility in the present. And if it comes to a referendum, then it's the voters who decide ultimately.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, no, I'd like to just rebut on that. Again, as the student population has declined, our numbers have gone up. So this dollar per student has gone up quite appreciably, upwards of 27%. At the same time, our rankings have declined even more precipitously. So I really wonder whether or not those dollars are being applied appropriately given the poor performance of our schools. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we'll move on to the next question then. And this one will go to Mr. Giordano first. Given the district-wide reduction in enrollment over the last few years, would you support an expansion of the pre-K 3 and 4 programs to full day and or not limit enrollment to a lottery? And we're starting with Mr. Giordano this time. Are you there? Michael Giordano? Oh, he must have frozen.
He's on mute.
I think it's frozen.
Yeah. All right, why don't we, hopefully he'll get back on and we'll go to Mr. Locascio.
So the question again was whether we should extend to pre-K or not? Is that the question?
Extend, it says support an expansion of the pre-K 3 and 4 programs to full day and not limit to enrollment to a lottery.
Yeah. On this one, I'd have to say I'd have to consider further. Look to the budget to see if it's if it makes sense. But I'm definitely open to looking at it more closely and probably be generally supportive. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wong, I have you next.
Yeah, I'm as like two working parents in our family. I strongly support pre-K can be full day to every student as long as we have space available. This will solve many issues since our classroom size is become smaller. So I think this is a good idea. Many school districts they have pre-K like for like a 4 day. So I strongly support this if we have a possibility.
Thank you. Trying to figure out what's happening. Ms. Manfred.
I do like this idea. This is I know that there is a lottery for the children to get into that program. So not all interested families are able to have their children go to the pre-K program. I know it's half day as well. I know that the program is housed in Center Grove. But back in 2018, I was part of a task force that was looking at what to do with the referendum. If a referendum went through, where should the monies be put? And one of the big things that the teachers, parents, this whole group of people that came together agreed on is there's not a lot of storage in the classrooms or in the schools. So as good as that sounds to have extra classes, and I agree that could be great for the school, I think we'd have to figure out where are we going to put those classes, because the classrooms are pretty full as it is. We do have an athletic center. We do have a field house. Could it be possible to use all that space for yet another reason to be able to house some of these programs? That could be a possibility. That would definitely be something that we'd have to look at budget-wise and definitely with the space. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. My computer froze up and I dropped off there. I
Oh,
apologize.
you're back. You're back. That's great. So the question was, did you hear the question?
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay. Given the district-wide reduction in enrollment over the last few years, would you support an expansion of the pre-K 3 and 4 programs to full day and or not limit enrollment to the lottery? To a lottery.
Yeah, great question. Generally, I'm in favor of universal pre-K, actually, which is becoming the way New Jersey is going, I think, in general. Whatever we can do to help working parents, I think is really, really important. Just personally in our own family, we are very involved in that community and with that age group. And, there's very little that society offers in terms of support for younger parents and for parents who haven't hit that school age yet. And it's very difficult. And I've heard this from many, many parents, hundreds of parents, that it's a very lonely experience and it's a very difficult experience. Whatever we can do to help bring kids in quicker and work our way toward universal pre-K, I am in favor of.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz.
When my kids were little, I would have killed to have universal pre-K. Every year it came up in our school district and every year it was voted down. Part of the reason being that the only people who were for it were people who had kids of that age. In order to make a really intelligent decision on this, I would really have to look at the costs involved, look at the rooms involved. I truthfully don't have enough information about what it would cost and where these children would go. As much as I would love to say, yay, I'm for it, I am for it in principle. I just don't know about the mechanics of getting it paid for and what it would cost the district.
Thank you. And Mr. Duffy, same question.
Yes, thank you. So our kids had a great experience in pre-K. I think it was half day at the time. And I think it's a very good program. I would also say that I would need more information about the logistics, the room needed, the costs of it, and how that would be balanced against other priorities. The other thing I would say is that I don't favor lotteries at all. I think if we offer a program, we should offer it or not offer it. And so I really want to look at how we can make the current program available to everyone who would like to have it. Again, assuming that there's a way in the budget in prioritization to make that happen.
Thank you. Moving right along, unless anyone has rebuttal. Okay. Randolph has approximately 25 steps for teachers to reach their highest income potential. Do you think this should be lower, higher, or stay the same? And why do you feel that way? And this one we'll start with Mr. Locascio.
The question is how many steps should take to get to the highest potential? Is that the question?
Yes, 25, too much, not
Yeah.
enough.
I think in general that we have to take a good look at our teacher compensation and make sure that it's competitive, just generally speaking. My understanding is that we unfortunately have a lot of teacher turnover that I believe is at least in part due to compensation, but also frankly due to some other issues in town. We just noticed Dr. Copeland left for another district, other teachers are leaving and other administrators are leaving as well. So I think this is part of a larger story to make sure that our teachers have good morale and which I think, again, plays a role in ultimately helping our children have the best education possible. So with respect to the specific number of steps, 25 versus 20 versus 12, I think I need to investigate that further. But just in generally speaking, I think our teachers need to be compensated appropriately such that they are happy and stay.
Thank you. Mr. Wong.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to those all those teachers who dedicate their life to teach our kids, to promote our kids to a academic successful. So I really appreciate them. So I hope all the teachers will be well compensated. However, we also have to look at our budget availability to see if it's possible. I know currently we have done very, very good way to make teacher like we make the salary like a competent with other school district to keep our best teachers or resources. So I hope we can keep this way. We can going on this way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Manfred.
The steps are definitely something that we could look at and as a board see, does it have to be lower, higher? Can we eliminate? Is it correct? Is this how we should continue doing it? I know with my experience of being a PTO parent in the schools, I was able to see firsthand how great the teachers are, how much they have a love of learning, especially with those little kids, and how they really infuse the love of learning into the children. And it really is spectacular and very rewarding just to see that as a volunteer when it's not even your own children and you're just seeing how much they're getting out of the teachers and the teachers' love of learning. As far as any type of retention, I know with the administrators, usually there's only 30 positions in the district. So if there is an admin who wants to leave for a higher paying position, it's usually because there is no advancement because there's only so many admin positions available in the school. And I do actually think it says a lot about Randolph that admins are moving to these higher stellar jobs, because I think having Randolph on your resume as a place to work is very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz.
As a young teacher, I can remember dying to go up a step and how all the raises were kind of backloaded, so the people in the middle of the chart didn't get very much raises very often. And it was very frustrating to me. I do think, though, that the big question here is really, how do we keep our good teachers? And of course, we need to look and see where are they going, and more importantly, why are they going? Are they going because they don't feel valued, or are they going because they feel underpaid? And there's a very big difference between those two things. So I do think that we have to try to keep our good teachers. I'm not sure that money is the only thing that these teachers want.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I also think we need to look at the big picture. There are several really important factors that will allow us to retain really good teachers. Certainly compensation is a big one, but I also agree that the environment in which they work, loving to come to work, feeling respected and valued and listened to are equally important. So I think we need to focus on both of those things and have ways to assess those and ensure that those are both in place. As far as the number of steps, I would need to consider that further. We obviously need to compensate our teachers at a level where they feel they're fairly compensated, and we minimize that incentive to leave the district. But again, I would need to look at, what is the right number of steps, how frequently, the increases would occur, how that compares, to what degree that's a factor for the teachers in being happy in our district versus leaving the district. So that's something I would need to look into further.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Giordano.
Sure. Look, this is a complicated one. In my own management experience, one of the highest compliments someone can pay me is that I've mentored this person to the extent that they've grown as a professional, to the extent where they are ready to move on and advance their career, their life. I take that as a compliment. You know, as it was pointed out, there may not be a position for someone to move up into, and then they may have to consider other options. And if that's the case, that's not a problem. That's a good thing. That means we're doing a good job of preparing people and executing on professional development. To compensation plans specifically, you know, I think they need to be three things. They need to be simple, they need to be transparent, and they need to fairly reflect the value that a person contributes to the organization, period.
Thank you. This could be our last question. Let's see how it goes.
I have a rebuttal.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't think teachers leaving our district is a good thing, period. And my understanding after speaking with a lot of teachers is that there is a morale issue. Maybe that's a compensation issue. I have a feeling that it's far more than that. And I think we need to address it, not only for the sake of our teachers, but personally, I think this is one of the reasons why our rankings have been in decline over the last 5 years. Thank you.
Anyone else want to rebuttal? Mr. Giordano.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could always create new positions, but at the end of the day, there's only so many positions open in a district at a given time. And just like any of us may have to, if we want to take a next step in our career, we may have to look somewhere else. Then that happens sometimes, and it's sad. Nobody wants to lose good teachers, but it may be a reality unless we want to explore creating new positions and therefore increasing our costs.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, so I want to emphasize again that there are multiple factors. So to the degree that there are morale issues, and I've heard the same thing, then those need to be addressed, because it won't be necessary to create new positions if we can address issues where teachers don't feel valued or respected. They love what they do, they love coming to work, then they will be more than happy to stay at the current compensation. I think that's something we need to look at as well.
Thank you. Any more rebuttal? Okay. As I was saying, this could be our last question. We'll see how quickly we get through it. This Board of Education campaign cycle has been the most contentious of any in recent history. Given criticisms you may have made of the current board and administration and or fellow candidates, there is potential for a, quote, less than smooth transition should you be elected. What specifically will you do to establish productive working relationships with your peers, particularly those who have been on the receiving end of your criticism or negative remarks? That's a mouthful. And we'll start with Mr. Wong.
There have been suddenly there have been critics from somewhere. Basically, mainly, I think the supporter of the three slate, their supporters criticize more. Although the three of people they keep silent. I think the criticize is sometimes is not reasonable. For example, they against the whole board. They think the whole board is terrible. It's not true. I don't think the whole board is true. Is terrible. People volunteer work for the school district, for everyone else, for the whole community. So why just attack them and even I heard even Mr. Giordano also be attacked as board member. I don't understand that this is why, but however.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Sorry, Ms. Manfred.
As a current board member, I hope to continue to be on the board, and I hope any new members would have a smooth transition. Since I've been on the board, I believe there's been, I would say 3 to 5 board members that have come on new from a resignation, and then new people come on, or because they are voted on during election time. I have no problem working with anyone. I feel even in my personal life, you work with people that you have so many similarities with, but you can still work with people that maybe you don't agree on everything. And coming together, hopefully you'd be able to work. We're one of 9 in a board. Everyone has a voice, but again, you do have to listen to your fellow board members and always be respectful. I feel everyone can be. we're here for the betterment of the kids of the district. And I think it's important to work together. So however the board ends up, I hope to be on it. And I look to work smoothly and cohesively with anyone who else is on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz.
This is an easy one for me to answer because I've never said anything negative about anyone on the board or on this panel here tonight. That's not who I am. I don't criticize people. I may criticize things that they do, but certainly no one is perfect, so no one can really take umbrage at that. I made a point, as a matter of fact, at the last board meeting of praising what I had seen because I felt it was only fair if I had criticized actions, I should also praise those actions that I felt were praiseworthy. I can work with anyone. I've always been able to work with people. In my career, I've been able to work with some very difficult people who I was supervising, and I know that skill will travel along with me to the board, and I look forward to working with anyone that's on the board.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, I will just say that my focus during the campaign has been on the issues that affect kids and the school system. It's not about people. All of the positions that I have articulated have been very well researched and thoughtfully communicated very openly in multiple different ways. The issues are declining education, increasing costs, bad decisions by the board, which need to be discussed. It's not an attack on people, it's discussing things that need to be discussed, like taking Columbus Day off the calendar. And one of the more important for me is that there's no doubt that there are some really critical and state mandates that are coming, which the board is not talking about and is not being transparent with parents on how they're being implemented. These things need to be discussed. Now on the board, I will obviously reach out to other board members and develop a consensus and get alignment on what we want to achieve and work with the board, because it is a body that needs to deliberate together and make decisions, but it should not be 9-0. There should be discussion and debate before decisions are made.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano.
Yeah, sure. This is actually kind of an easy one for me too. I have spent my campaign already trying to build these bridges. I'm a big believer in coming together with people and bringing us all into the same space to discuss things. I love nothing more than a rational conversation, and people get passionate about things. And that's not a problem. It just goes to show how deeply people hold their convictions, and I don't hold that against anybody. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as I said in my opening, it's really important when we talk about our Board of Education that the reasons for being on the board be crystal clear, that people understand what a board is and why it's there, and why ultimately a disrupted, divided, split board does not serve the interests of the community. So we can cast ceremonial no votes to make ourselves feel better, but at the end of the day, really, this is about coming together as a community and making sure that our agenda and our plan reflects the desires of that community, and that's what the plan I've put together really demonstrates. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, thanks. Our tagline is for the kids. That's first and foremost. So my job on the board, as well as anyone else who's on the board, ultimately for the betterment of all of our children. And the reason why there's been so much controversy, so to speak, against the current board is frankly because of poor decisions that were made. I work in a global company my entire life. I worked around the world with many, many different people. Getting people on the same page is not an issue, although there are oftentimes some disparity in thought. I don't particularly think that's an issue, but we have to keep in mind that the major purpose is to better the children. We are for the kids. The idea of having 9-0 votes all the time, particularly on contentious issues, is not a good thing. That shows a complete lack of debate and consideration of some of the issues, particularly those 9-0 votes taken very quickly without understanding the issues altogether, as Mr. Wong has said earlier. So again, I do plan on meeting and working well with the board. But again, it's for the betterment of the kids. Thank you.
I think that was everyone on this question.
Can I rebuttal?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So I always heard there's a complaint say the school rating was going down, and also saying school test score going down. And I checked the test score data. The data shows it's not going down. It's just keep where it is. And also it's impossible for whole school district to keep going down. That's very impossible. And I try to see the data where they show, they always say there's data. I never see any data shown, just by mouse. Mouse cannot say anything. I have data.
I guess the next one was Allison.
I just wanted to say just that as far as any of the votes that come 9-0, I understand how that might look like it's rubber stamping, but please do know that there is so much work that's done behind the scenes. We can't get together and join as a group and talk about these things unless we're in open or if it's executive session and closed. But please know that a lot of these conversations happen and people have questions in committees all the time. And on Friday afternoons, the whole board then gets to see the whole agenda. And sometimes thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ocasio.
Yeah, how much discussion was on the Columbus Day that was 9-0? How much discussion was on the DEI that was 9-0? With respect to the numbers, the niche data shows that our rankings have declined from 46 to 22 over the period of 5 years. And if you look at the school data, our high school now sits at 100, where it used to be 46. All right, other schools like Fernbrook are ranking near 600. They're going in the wrong direction, and we need to reverse it now. Save Center Grove, which is doing fantastic, and we need to share the best practices from that school to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have more time for questions, and we have so many good questions left over, so I apologize for that. It just shows that you've got a very active community that cares about who represents them on the school board. So this brings us to the closing statements, which we're going to do in reverse alpha order. We're going to start with Mr. Wong.
Oh, closing statement?
Yes.
Sorry.
Do you want me to move to Ms. Manfred?
Yeah, someone else first, because I try to sign.
Allison, is that okay with you?
Of course, yes.
All right.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the PTO Council for co-hosting the event tonight. Thank you to the audience for virtually attending. As a Board of Education, we do not run the district. We ensure the district is well run. We can offer guidance and support, but we cannot make the decisions for the superintendent or the district. I'm always aware of our role, and I know how the BOE fits into the structure. I continue to be proud of the excellent staff and administration we have here at Randolph, and I continue to be amazed at the talents and passions of our students. The education of these students is the most important aspect of a Board of Education member. The focus should be on their well-being and the importance of creating strong, intelligent individuals. I believe it is vital to nurture all students. We can do this by fostering a love of learning and supporting each student's goals. I look to continue to promote a positive vision of education and opportunities in the community, while still being aware of any issues that arise and work with the district to identify and solve them. No school district is perfect. There are always improvements to be made. I look to work on these improvements in a respectful way while taking parents' feedback and concerns seriously and using them as a way to strengthen our school system. I believe in kindness, in leading in a way that fosters positivity and growth. I believe in working together with other board members and the district. I do not have an agenda in this nonpartisan position. Rather, I'm a mother of 2 children in the school district who has given years to the schools and the students. I would like to continue to work with our district and leaders to ensure that this wonderful town continues to have a strong, united school system. I kindly ask for your support in the upcoming election. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready now. I want to say thank you to you, Nancy, the host of the debate, and also want to say thank you to the organizer, the Women League, also to the PTA, Randolph PTA. So give me this opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you all, everyone, for your listening, although you are not shown. So please thank you so much. So please be aware, we all are volunteer worker, and we are working for the community without pay, and it's not on pay based. So we are people. People sometimes make mistakes, small mistakes. So don't exaggerate the small mistakes as a large error or large mistake. So please, even if in future if you get voted, I will wish you luck, and I will not criticize those volunteer work, just like those basketball coach, and they work hard on the basketball, and they're yelling at the kids. So as parents, I always feel appreciate to their effort to teach the kids, not just yell them and say, you are all bad guys. What are you doing? So that's not right, I think. So I also think, please, if we make some mistakes, please forgive us, because.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Mr. Locascio.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time tonight. The once excellent Randolph schools are in decline, owing to out-of-touch leadership that is more concerned with personal politics than the education of our kids. Randolph education needs to change direction, needs new leadership to reverse the decline, and once again, raise education to excellence for all of our kids. Again, I want to remove the divisive politics from our schools and focus all efforts on improving the rigor of the curriculum, overall quality of the education, and educational outcomes. I believe that all the kids should have the ability to achieve their full potential and learn to be great American citizens. I want to increase transparency, improve fiscal responsibility, and reassert the primacy of parents in educational decisions. In short, I want once again to bring Randolph education back to the excellence that it was once for all of our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kurtz.
Thank you to everyone who helped make tonight possible. As you know by now, I have literally devoted my entire professional life to education. I know how schools work. I know how classrooms work. I know how school boards work. I feel very, very strongly that robust curriculum, transparency, and communication are crucial in order to make our schools work. I know my skills and experience will be effective in helping the board focus on what's truly important, education. A vote for me and my slate is a vote for honesty, integrity, and transparency. It's time to take a fresh look at our schools. It's time to do everything that we can for our kids. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Giordano.
Sure. So yeah, thank you to everyone for watching tonight. Thanks for sticking with it. And thank you again to the League of Women Voters and the PTO Council for putting this event on. I'd also like to say thank you to all of our teachers and staff who work so hard every day on behalf of our children and the community. This has been quite the year, no doubt about it, but it really is my sincere wish that we can put the past behind us and move in a new and a better direction as a stronger community. Me personally, I have no axe to grind. I have no agenda to enact. I'm not here to overturn the table. I'm here as a parent and a citizen who wants to do their utmost to continue to promote the excellence of our district. So I hope tonight has been informative for you at home. I hope those watching have had a chance to see what a board does and learn a little bit more about what the BOE's function and role is and why this election is so important. And if you believe, as I do, that our path forward as a community is to come together and move as one into a future focused on continual innovation and improvement, then I encourage you to come out on November 2nd and vote for me. And as always, I am happy to take questions from voters down to the very last day. Please feel free to visit my website, randolph2040plan.com. And thank you very much. Have a great night and have a great school year.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my views. I really appreciate it, and to everyone for listening. Clearly, Randolph schools are at a crossroads. We can continue the rising costs and declining educational results, which will only accelerate due to the destructive state curriculum mandates that have nothing to do with education and everything to do with changing the values of students and how they think about themselves, other students, and their country, while undermining parental rights. Or we can change course, get back to the right priorities of educational excellence and financial responsibility, and stand up to minimize the impact of state mandates so they do not further distract students and teachers from learning. Our opponents have accused me and my fellow For the Kids candidates of having a radical agenda. That's not so. Our agenda is simply to get the focus back to where it should be, on teaching a strong core curriculum, responsible financial management of the schools, pride in our American heritage and principles, respect for veterans and police, and transparency for parents. That is what made Randolph Schools a great place for students and teachers to succeed, and also made Randolph Schools widely known for excellence. If you want to get Randolph Schools back on the right path, please vote for me and my fellow For the Kids candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. And now that I didn't miss anyone, correct? Now that everyone has had an opportunity to close, I want to thank you all for participating. I think Randolph is fortunate to have 6 good candidates, and it's going to be a decision that your community will have to make on November 3rd. Don't forget, we want to remind people to vote, have a plan for voting. You can do it one of 3 ways, as you know. You can vote by mail. And if you want to vote by mail, you have to apply for a vote by mail ballot by tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline to apply for a vote by mail ballot. And then there's also voting early and voting on election day as you normally do. I want to thank our timekeeper, Diane Holland, our tech experts who are not showing their faces, but Deb McCumber and Barbara Cooper-Smith. And I want to thank the PTO for co-sponsoring with us. And I want to wish you all a happy good evening and a good luck in the election. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. I said the wrong date.